Okay, we're resuming meeting number 121 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Finance. The committee is proceeding to the consideration of matters related to committee business. More specifically, the motion of PS Rachel Bandayan and the amendment of MP Lawrence. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the Standing Order 15.1. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. I'd like to make a few comments for the benefit of the members. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those participating by video conference, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you are not speaking. Interpretation for those on Zoom, you have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either floor, English, or French. For those in the room, you can use the earpiece and select the desired channel. Although this room is equipped with a powerful audio system, feedback events can occur. These can be extremely harmful to interpreters and cause serious injuries. The most common cause of sound feedback microphone is turned on. In order to prevent incidents and safeguard the hearing health of the interpreters, I invite participants to ensure that they speak into the microphone in which their headset is plugged in and to avoid manipulating the earbuds by placing them on the table away from the microphone when they are not in use. Reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. For members in the room, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. For members on Zoom, please use the raised hand function. The clerk and I will manage the speaking order as best we can, and we appreciate your patience and understanding in this regard. So I do see a hand up, and MP Sainte-Marie, and then I will go through the list, our speakers list that we had from when we last left off. And MP Sainte-Marie, please. Yeah.
Oui, merci, monsieur.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to point of order here. We know that all through the fall we had consultations, pre-budgetary cycle to present to the Minister and to the House. I'd like to know where we are on that project. And I'd like to remind colleagues that we are in somewhat of an impasse. If we had worked through the hours dedicated to the study of this on the pre-consultation budget, or pre-budget consultation rather, we would have had the time to present it to the House in December. So I hope today we can adjourn that motion, which is, in a dead-ended situation, and we can see where the drafting of that report is at the current time. Thank you very much.
This? Point of order? Okay, so this is a point of order from MP Sainte-Marie. I just want to say to MP Sainte-Marie, first off, I want to thank the committee. I think we've done a tremendous job on the pre-budget consultation, thanking, of course, the clerk, the analysts, everybody here that has put in the great effort. We did get an opportunity, as members know, to travel the country and to get to pretty much every province. And from that, I think we've gathered a lot of evidence, and yes, for the pre-budget consultation. So we are in a good place. I know there are conversations happening to see if we can kind of take it further, and hopefully we can get something done. But that's where we are right now. I just had an opportunity to speak to Brett Capwell, our analyst, and he said he's got kind of the structure and everything put together, and I know that recommendations have come in from the NDP, the Bloc, and we're looking for any other recommendations that may come in from members. Yeah. Okay.
Merci.
Yeah. But thank you very much for that, MP Sainte-Marie. I appreciate it. Did you have a point of order? Okay, so just we'll get to the business of our committee right now, and that is that we are on this motion from PS Bandayan and the amendment from MP Lawrence. And on our speaking order, I had MP Blakey. You had the floor last, so you will have the floor. And then I did have MP Genius here, and then MP Lawrence, then Majumdar, and then MP Soroka. That was the list that I had.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Oh, point of order, sorry. Yes, PS Bandayan.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, c'était sur l'appel au règlement de mon collègue, Monsieur.
Yes. In regards to Member Sainte-Marie's point of order. Perhaps the analysts could advise us of where they are in the process, and they might like to have an opportunity to answer directly to his concerns.
Brett? Yep.
Of course.
Go ahead.
So the body of the report is mostly prepared at this point. I think there are a few small aspects that still are being drafted or are in translation. I would say the next, if the committee were to meet on the report, the most logical place to start would be the recommendations to begin going through those.
Okay, thank you, P.S. Bendayan. And now to MP Blakey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And just in respect to those pre-budget consultation issues, I will say I'd be very happy for the committee to be able to move on to that in the very short term. I think we just, with the minister appearing on Thursday, that gives us 2 more meetings after today in our regular schedule. It'd be wonderful to be able to spend those meetings on the pre-budget consultation report. I think the best way to do that is to get to a vote on the amendment and the motion that we have before us. So I'm going to spend a little time talking, but with the caveat that I'm very happy to stop talking at any point if we have unanimous consent to give each party another 2 or 3 minutes to speak and then proceed to a vote on the amendment and a vote on the motion. Pardon me? Are you ready to go to a vote?
You're ready to go to vote.
I mean, if there's agreement to go to a vote on the amendment and then on the main motion, I'm prepared just to do that, Mr. Chair. Otherwise, I'm sure I can dream up a few things to say.
Sorry, if I don't want to crosstalk, but we are prepared to go for a vote for an amendment, and I can see a path to finishing today.
Okay.
That's what I can give you right now.
I won't stand in the way of that, Mr. Chair. If we're prepared to have votes, as I say, on the amendment and the main motion today, let's get going.
So what I'm hearing is that members are asking for a vote on the amendment and then on the main motion.
We want the amendment. I want to be clear. We are agreeable to vote immediately on the amendment. I'll put all our cards on deck. We have another amendment we want to put forward to, but we don't want lengthy debate on that. And then we'll proceed to the vote on the main motion.
Okay, so we are going to a vote on the amendment.
Mr. Baker.
Vote against.
Madame Bendayan.
Non.
Ms. Shanahan.
No.
Ms. Thompson.
No.
Mr. Weiler.
Against.
Mr. Chambers. Mr. Halan.
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence.
Yes.
Mr. Morantz.
Yes.
Monsieur Saint-Marie.
Contre.
Mr. Blakey.
No.
4 yeas, 7 nays.
Well, it's been defeated. Okay, so MP Blakey.
I think we can go to Mr. Lawrence. If that
Okay,
works for
MP Lawrence. The
Thank
floor,
you.
Yep.
I'd like to move the following amendment. It'll to the main motion. Yeah. Sorry, with replacing clause 3, and instead writing stands with Canadians who wish to protect the CPP and encourages Albertans to remain in the CPP so that it can be secured for all Albertans and Canadians.
Okay, on this amendment, MP Blakey.
Appel au règlement, Monsieur le Président.
Yep.
Point of order, please. We do not have, the interpreters do not have a copy of the amendment in any form, English or French, and it would be nice to have both versions.
Let's give them some time so that MP Samari, would you like some time, MP Samari, to get it in French?
J'aimerais que le greffier.
Well, perhaps the clerk or the conservative member could have provide us with a copy of the amendment in French.
Lawrence should have received the French translation. Yeah, I'm looking at MP Samari, and he gives me a thumbs up. It is good. Okay. So on this amendment, was there discussion or debate on, yep?
Just to offer a couple thoughts. I first of all want to say thank you for what I think is a reasonable amendment, and although it's not one that I intend to support, I think it's constructive. I think it's the right kind of dialogue to have around this table. So I don't think it's a terrible amendment, but I think part of what's been at stake in the debate so far is, about the appropriateness of having some criticism for other levels of government. Of course, we see many times members of the House offer criticisms of various levels of government. And for me, I'm very much of the view that, that this initiative coming from the Smith government, is political from go, that it's a political criticism that's meant to create a certain kind of political discontent. And I think it's unfortunate. There are many ways that provinces can do that, and it's fair game to criticize the federal government. But I think that when it comes to the CPP and the wide level of consensus that's there about the CPP and the good performance of the CPP over a long time, I do think that it's not something that should be brought into some of the typical debates as between provinces and the federal government. And I don't really think in this case that the federal government itself is the one that's going to suffer for this debate. And I talked at the last meeting a little bit about how even the specter of these changes has the potential to do damage and to do damage now. It's actually Canadian workers and people who depend on the CPP who are most likely to get hurt. It's not Justin Trudeau and the Liberals. It's not the federal government generally. And so I think being able to name that in the motion for me is an important part of what we're doing here, and it's why I don't intend to support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Blakey. Anyone else? No? Okay. So, Clerk?
Mr. Baker?
I vote against.
Madame Bendayan?
No.
Ms. Shanahan?
No.
Ms. Thompson?
No.
Mr. Weiler?
Against.
Mr. Chambers? Mr. Halal?
In favor.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Mr. Morantz?
Yes.
Monsieur Semari?
Non.
Mr. Blakey?
No.
4 yeas, 7 nays.
It's defeated. We're going to the main motion. On the main motion, you would like to speak? Yeah. Okay. MP Lawrence.
Thank you, and I'll be true to my word. It won't be a lengthy debate, but I just want to get a couple of comments on the record. As you can see from these amendments that we've brought forward, particularly the second, Conservatives stand in full support of CPP, and our encouragement is that Alberta stay within the CPP regime. That being said, is that unfortunately the divisive rhetoric of this amendment is really just meant for purely political reasons, and that's what's come across. Otherwise, the amendments would have voted. It's clear from this that the goal is not to show solidarity or support for the Canada Pension Plan, but instead to pick fights, unfortunately, with our provincial counterparts, which I don't think is productive, and quite frankly, I don't think it's a way to encourage Albertans to stay in the CPP by calling names. But obviously, Conservatives stand alone. That's not unusual, and so we will continue to stand for what's right. But with that, we Conservatives would like to call this for a vote.
Okay, so we are now on the main motion, and is there any further discussion? No? Okay. So we will go to a vote on the main motion.
Mr. Baker?
In favor.
Madame Bendayan?
Oui, en faveur.
Ms. Shanahan,
Yes.
Ms. Thompson,
In favor.
Mr. Weiler,
In favor.
Mr. Chambers,
Oui.
Mr. Halan,
Reluctantly, yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Morantz,
Yes.
Monsieur Saint-Marie,
Contre.
Mr. Blakey.
Yes.
10 yeas, 1 nay.
Okay, right, so it passes. And
And,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair,
Okay, with it. Okay, so, and actually, we don't have anything
Mr.
else, so
Chair,
we're
just
adjourned
before
actually
you-
at this time. Yeah.
Thank you.